Hi, everybody. This is Drive Safe Day with BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. We have an exciting interview today with some guys that do a little bit more intense, in depth talk to drivers themselves with Life by the Mile. Hey, guys, I want to introduce y'all in here to the studio. But before I do that, I kind of want to hear who you are and what it is and what kind of give me a little bit about each of you right now for everybody out there.
Go ahead, Jordan.
So I'm the producer of Life by the Mile. It's a new podcast that we launched last year, and we're out here telling driver stories and touch on a few other parts of the industry, but real focus on driver stories, interviewing drivers, hearing straight from them what's going on out there on the road, and it's been a real interesting journey. Butch is our host.
I'm Butch Maltby. I may be the only gainfully employed person named Butch that you know. I'm the host of Life by the Mile delivered by FreightWorks. Our whole desire, very similar to yours, is to tell the colorful, sometimes and often chaotic stories of drivers, men, women, solos, and teams across the country with the hopes that people really come to understand it's a remarkable profession.
Yeah, and you say that. What got you into doing that? This niche, this driver niche, right? I mean, there's so many niches you could get into. Boy, you surely drilled into one when you want to hear the story of drivers. What got you there?
Jordan, why don't you mention what
Yeah,
sort of
so
launched this whole thing?
So we're a trucking company that's grown from one truck to about 125 trucks today over the past 10 years, and so I've had an opportunity to work in all parts of the trucking industry on the carrier side, and just the driver stories are unbelievable when you think back over 10 years of what you've heard and the stories. It's pretty incredible, and often they're not really drivers aren't celebrated, they're not appreciated. People don't understand what they go through, and so as a carrier we said, uh, you know instead of traditional marketing things, like putting ourselves out there, we thought, why don't we put out the driver stories? They're really something worth listening to, and drivers would really appreciate that. And so it's brought a level of dignity to the driver perspective that isn't often seen.
And I think what I would add to that too is that I came into this with no background in trucking logistics, so every episode of Life by the Mile delivered by FreightWorks is part of my education, and you just learn unbelievable things. I mean, where else but a platform like this can you hear a driver say when you ask them the question, "Well, do you have any pets?" And they say, "Yeah, we have 6 ferrets that are there in the cab with us." I mean, where else can you hear and you get along? And what do they do? And where do they go? And when you stop for the night and you bring them into wherever you're going, what do the people think? Or, you hear about different hobbies and different things that drivers do. I have found it absolutely delightful just to be able to interview these folks and to really reinforce, hey, you know what? This is an industry that's critical to the American economy. These are people that have real stories. There was a noted rhetorical critic who one time said, in ways that were a little more complicated than needed. You can persuade people only insofar as they can identify with you. So we want to create a salad bar of stories where people that are in the industry and outside of it, people that are considering coming into the industry say, hey, that could be me. That could be me. So that's really been the motivation. We said when we started, we don't really know what we're doing, but with prayer and hard work, we're doing it.
Yeah, trust me, we definitely know here exactly about the prayer and hard work. And we sit here and we were talking earlier, our stories kind of go down similar paths. Our ideas are run kind of parallel because they both are based solely in the trucking industry. And not only are they just outside of, we're not just looking at execs and we're not just talking to executives, we're not just talking to brokers or carriers and what have you. But what we are talking to are the drivers themselves, where the true rubber meets the road. And to
Right.
me, that's what matters. And y'all bringing these to light really makes a difference. I'll ask you, and since you haven't had much experience, what is really the biggest surprise that you've had in interviewing drivers? I mean, honestly, what's the big, not the 6 ferrets in the truck, although that is an interesting story. I think I've even used that one while I was speeding. That I was actually had one pinned under the gas pedal for a minute, so that was the only reason I was speeding. But what is the real shock that has come to light after telling these stories?
I would say the passion of drivers, the professionalism of drivers, the persistence of drivers against all odds. Most people like me have no idea about all the variables that a driver has to deal with every day. They've got customers, they've got loads, they've got regulations, they've got weather, they've got equipment, they've got technology, they have company expectations. The multitasking on a moment by moment basis. My father was an airline pilot, and I came to understand a little bit what they deal with, but drivers have incredible responsibility. And most of the uninformed in our country don't really understand how trucking and logistics is touching every single part of our life every day. So I think just the complexities that drivers deal with every day, and for the most part, the good spirit they deal with it.
And then for the younger generation like myself, who, I've been in the trucking industry for about 10 years, uh, we had a guy on who has been a driver for 56 years. So talking about the change in the industry over time, our old stories don't compare to theirs. So hearing what it was like 56 years ago is really interesting.
Yeah, I was trained by those guys. By the way, I don't even want to tell you how old I am. I've been trained. Those are the most of the guys that I grew up with when I first got into the industry. Of course, are gone. They're no longer with us. But they did tell a genuine story. But they had a genuine passion for what they did, and it carried over. And I believe it's still there in the mindset of the drivers out there on how important what they do once they get out there and once they do. And I truly believe after they see a couple of seasons twice, that to me, that's really when a driver starts to get that experience. You've seen every
Mhm.
season two times. You could have a mild winter, but you're rarely going to get by twice without getting hit hard. And you're going to have a hot summer, but rarely you're going to get a hot one time. And I'm just saying, after a while, they start to understand the complexities of the road. When you were saying that, it brought to light here. We focus on safety here at BCB Live. I think our mission one statement is imperatively and must always be the
Mhm.
safety aspect, because we don't want one more life lost out there on the road by
Mm-mm.
drivers. We want that to be our primary deal. How important is it when you talk to drivers is safety to them?
Well, I would say real quickly, it comes up, and Jordan can drill deep on this. It comes up in every single discussion that we have because, we want people to remember there are little children in many cases looking through the window for mom or dad to come home. We never want to lose sight of the human dimension. That's what Life of the Mile delivered by Freightworks is all about, which, by the way, you could just go to lifebythemile.com and you'll find a whole menu of things that you can do there. But safety is paramount. And Jordan, you'd be able to speak to exactly how we make that commitment flesh out day to day.
Yeah, perhaps I have a unique perspective because my dad is the safety director here. So yeah, it's kind of an ever-present topic, uh, in my life at this point, so I can't even mention anything without hearing about the safety aspect. Uh, yeah, safety is not it's not an afterthought, it's not something that you have to remember to do, it needs to be part of your, everyday routine, right? So, not taking shortcuts, you know, the simple things make a big difference, so just sticking to the process, doing things with, the way that is the right way to do it. It's every time that you skip one of those simple steps that you end up in trouble.
And we've had some drivers that have reinforced some themes, and you know what? It's so good that's a consistent value and theme that comes through in your platform. And by the way, we're grateful for the chance to be here today. So
It's an honor to
thanks
have
for
you.
opening
Absolutely. Don't know. Go, please. Continue.
opening up that door. But drivers will consistently talk about how important safety is. We had a new driver that just came on board. I won't mention his name, but lives up in Pennsylvania, and he told me, he said, "I want to show you a picture." And he picked up his phone, showed me a picture of a carrier he worked for that will remain unnamed, and he showed me a mechanical issue where a left wheel was lifting up off the ground. It was unsafe. He was in northern Maine And he said, they kept telling me, you got to keep driving. You got to keep driving. And so that's an extreme example, but we, of course, would never do that. Freightworks has an ethic where people are more important than profits, and we're interested in relationships, not just transactions. And so safety comes up regularly. And, we made a commitment with a new order of Peterbilt trucks that we have on the way that safety is going to be up there at the top. Safety is not an amenity. Safety, if you don't have it, is a non-starter.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You speak to that, and I'll tell you that we truly believe here, and I don't care where you work when it comes to safety. If the carrier you're with is not doing or making sure, and to speak to that, and aren't doing the things that really in your heart know aren't safe, you need to go find another job. And I don't care where you go, but you need to go somewhere else. I mean, and that's how important it is. I mean, I don't want anybody to feel coerced. I don't want anybody to feel like they're being not supported in the back office of whatever. I don't care what company you're with. If you're not feeling like you're being supported in the back office, you've got to make a difference and go somewhere else and find a job that does care, right? About you and about the other people on the road, right? So no, that's fascinating. What are some of the things that y'all are developing when you do this? I know this is kind of, I'll tell you, and as we go down similar paths, this is kind of, as we did it, things changed, right? I mean, we started to look at them a little bit different, and we started to do things. What is it you're moving more towards that maybe when you first started it, man, we're really starting to do this more? What are some of the things you're looking forward to?
Well, I can tell you one thing that we're doing differently is I'm not wearing a sport coat anymore.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Yeah. And you know what? We're very much into open communication. We take hold of each other here. So I got pulled to the side, and it's like, you know what, Butch, the sports coat's got to go.
Yeah, I don't.
No,
it's not a truck driver thing. I'm gonna go out there. That's really not a truck. Sports coat's not really a truck driver thing. You know that, right?
Right. Well, I've learned it, and I've got plenty of people that are going to tell me exactly what I don't know, which I'm grateful for. But you know what? I was going to say this real quickly. As you were talking about safety a minute ago, you've got a little bit of preacher in you.
I have. Oh, well, and I think. So, and I appreciate that. It's not a preacher in me. What it is a passion. It's a passion about safety. It is not. I'm not a preacher about it, and I apologize if I can get on.
Oh, no. I meant that in an affirming way. You're passionate, and you're really making, because some people give lip service to safety.
No,
everybody in the marketplace, it seems like, talks about home time, compensation, quality of your truck, safety. I mean, the words are used so much. Isn't it sometimes the case that drivers just are? Do they really believe it? Can they believe it? Yeah, that's what we find a lot too. Can I trust you?
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, and I agree with you 100%. And as you talk to drivers, I am excited to know, because I'm going to be listening more, because I want to hear their stories and I want to hear what they have to say. And I'll tell you, I've gotten to a point about safety that I think it's ownership's responsibility as much as it is the driver's responsibility, as much as it's the dispatcher's responsibility, as much as it is the shipper's responsibility, and also the other people that share the road, the four-wheelers out there. I think if we're going to change this industry for the better, we all have to work together in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And we have to make a difference today, because we have more people on the road than ever before. And you guys are out there sending out a message, man. I hope that, you know what, if you want to wear a safety shirt, I'll get you one to wear on your show, so that it is a topic of conversation at least once every time you talk to a driver, because their lives matter to me. And they matter.
That's right.
They should matter, and everybody's lives matter out there. And I appreciate, and that's what your show says to me, is that the drivers matter, right? I think that's what differentiates what you're doing than a regular podcast. You're saying, hey, you matter, and not only what you do in the truck, what you do outside the truck, right? I don't want to know just what I want to know about your life. I want to know what makes it all tick. And that's exciting to me that you're telling that story. And I don't want to get off on a montage, but what is what is the most outrageous outside the truck story that, because I got a lot of, I'm an old truck driver. We got tons of inside the cab story like you wouldn't believe. But what's some of the outrageous that you went, you really do that? I mean, do you have any of those?
Hmm.
I'll throw it. It's not outrageous. That I understand what you're saying when you say that. I think one of the things that has been so incredible in some cases is to hear of the selfless acts, compassionate acts of drivers
Oh
who,
yeah.
in the midst of all their stresses, all the demands on their time, all of the things they have to take hold of and be responsible for, have enough of a sense of I am my brother's keeper. I am
Oh,
my
agreed.
sister's keeper, where they can pull over, they can help, they can encourage. We just did an incredible episode with somebody who's on the board of Truckers Against Trafficking. Human trafficking is a horrendous problem, and more than 800,000 frontline beacons, periscopes up into that problem in drivers who said, yeah, I'll do my part. I'm going to make sure if I see anything that seems pernicious or nefarious or bad, I'll report to law enforcement. I think one of the things that is so great is to see the compassion on the part of people who could easily turn the other way, but say, no, I'm not going to do that. That has really touched my heart.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
and
great.
on the topic of safety, I think one of the first eye openers for me when I started hearing from drivers was uh, we don't realize how often they see accidents.
Oh God.
There's barely a driver that I've talked to that hasn't seen uh, unfortunately a fatality in
Oh,
most
absolutely.
cases on the
Absolutely.
road. And that just highlights the importance of safety. This isn't like once in 50 years you might see something unsafe. This is like an everyday reality for
Oh yeah.
them, unfortunately. So everything we can do to change that across the industry is it's worth all our effort.
Yeah, and I, man, I appreciate that. When you talk to drivers, when you look at them and you talk to them, I do want you to, but especially since you're new to the industry, man, I want you to visualize. I know what you do, but remember, if you were to lose focus for just a second in what you do, nobody's probably going to get hurt. You might fall asleep, bump your head on the desk, or you might slip and fall in the off of your chair. But you imagine the amount of hours where you have to stay 100% focused all the time. That to
Hmm.
me is the
Right.
absolute hardest part of being a truck driver out there on the
Hmm.
road. It's not anything else. I mean, you know how easy it is to get lulled into that big TV screen in front of you, and then you get, oh, this, but really, that's the job of the professional out there, and I really appreciate you, what you do and how you do it. If anybody wants to see your show or to go to your show, how do they do that again? I want to make sure that we emphasize that, because I know that our drivers that tune into the show would sure want to hear the story of drivers.
Well, you can go to any of the major podcast platforms. You'll find it, Life by the Mile. Go to lifebythemile.com. You'll find a blog there that's regularly updated. We've got our episodes, and of course, the YouTube channel. And if you subscribe to Life by the Mile, delivered by FreightWorks, subscribe to that, you'll get notifications of the new episodes. We've been very aggressive in creating content, so we're now uploading 2 episodes per week on
Wow.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, and increasingly rounding out and those are 30-minute episodes, increasingly rounding out the content there with short form YouTube spots as well. So, Jordan, talk about that.
Yeah, so we're adding some shorter clips of highlighting specific topics that come up through our episodes, and then the next exciting thing coming up is some live streaming. So we're going to be at the Matt's show, Mid America Trucking Show, at the end of
Wow.
March, and we're going to be live streaming from there. We're going to be talking to industry leaders of across the entire industry, and then probably some booth highlights of what's going on at the show.
And
Are
and
you
and we're trying to make it a mix of not just drivers. It's primarily driver centric, but we will have some industry updates. And so Ellen
sure?
Hoya, for example, has become a good friend. We're later today actually doing a podcast, another podcast with her. We have some growing relationships and long-standing ones on Capitol Hill, and so soon in the next couple of weeks, we're expecting to have Congressman Madison Cawthorn on, who's from our part of Western North Carolina. So it's all about drivers, though, and that's the part of the Life of the Mile brand. and really the simpatico, the cooperation that we have with you is we're going to make sure that the driver's story gets told both inside the cab and outside the cab, at home. We want people to see the humane and heroic dimensions of driver lives in America.
Yeah, and I think that's great because right now I truly believe that when a four wheeler or anybody else that's not a truck driver, they see a truck on the road, it's either going too slow or it's in the way or it's something they have to get around and it's something that I don't have to respect. And I truly believe that it's only because their lack of knowledge of who's actually in the cab. And I think by your actions and by your bringing to light who's actually in the cab, I think it's going to give a better ability to make the right decisions when it comes to getting around those 18 wheelers out there on the road. I think it's a great educational tool to bring to light the humanity, like you said, of what's in that truck. Most of the time we hear a news story, it's an 18 wheeler had a wreck and the driver was killed, or it was an 18. It wasn't just a driver. It wasn't just. So it's just some of the things that I think y'all are bringing to the table that's going to make a genuine difference in the long run. If you do you just have a specific pool of drivers that you talk to, or is that an open pool of drivers that you communicate with?
Yeah, so obviously we started with the ones that are in house here, but we've reached out to a couple of you know influencers and drivers who kind of have an outsized influence on the industry. We've had several of those on so far, and if you know of any, or if any of you listening are interested in coming on the show, we'd absolutely love you to send us an email to show@lifebythemile.com, and we'd be happy to tell your story. We can do it audio only, or we can get your video in as well. So yeah, we'd be happy for any to tell any driver stories.
I would just add to that, we're not brand centric. This is not a commercial for FreightWorks. We really want it to be broader. And
Perfect.
so, for example, we've had Freightliner's team Run Smart Pros on. We've had people from other truck and logistics enterprises. So we want to tell the story of drivers. Where they work is not
Right.
really the issue. So if you know people, you can recommend people anyway. And we're firm believers that great alliances mean that 1 + 1 can equal 10. So we're not looking at this as a one-off thing. We really want to grow in our relationship with each other.
No, that's great, and I'm excited. I want to make sure that this is an open invitation, that we have the ability to come back to you with more interviews, and I can't wait for when you go to your show. I'd like to bring y'all back on and tell you and kind of get a rundown, maybe a recap of what you're doing. I'm also going to open it up to our huge volume of drivers that we talk to, and to reach out to you if they have a nomination of a great impactful person that you're talking about. You know what? They should call you, right? Or they should reach out and let
Right.
you know, hey, Jerry's been doing this for 25 years. He's not only a city councilman, but he's out saving lives and jumping in swimming pools and rescuing elks or whatever it is he's doing. But they should reach out and talk to you, right? And give you the word and
Absolutely.
give you the support to build on these awesome stories, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, it could be stories about veterans. It could be people that were attorneys that decided, you know what? I'm tired of navigating the courtroom. I want to navigate Interstate 40, whatever, mid-career changes, husbands and wives, young people that are coming into the industry. I'll say this real quickly. One of our goals too is to become a marketplace presence to encourage people to consider coming in, whether they come to FreightWorks or not. So we really want to be a tip of the spear to increasingly tell the story. Hey, you can make an unbelievable living. You can be involved in something important to America. You can see this gorgeous country through the windshield of your truck, and you can do it in a way that's consistent with everything that's made America great.
Yeah, man, what a great message, and what a great responsibility too, right? To go out there and do that, man. I hope to hear from you guys soon. I want to thank y'all for coming on the show and sharing your mission, sharing what you do, and also offering up the ability for other people to get involved in what you do and to grow what that is. So not only that, I want to thank you, and I want to make sure that you guys are going to come back and give us some more information later on.
Great. It's been a joy to be here today. We really appreciate it, and grateful, Jordan, for you helping make all of it happen.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Remember, this is Life by the Mile. Jump online, go to lifebythemile.com. Listen to what these guys are out there doing. Listen to what they're doing, how they're highlighting drivers, man. These guys are doing it right. I want you to make sure you listen to what that's happening out there for them and support them in their endeavor to change this industry for the better. Hey, this is, before you guys get out of here, I want you to say, I want one of you to, or however you want to do it, but you need to say, state your name, and then BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
Butch Maltby, host of LifeByTheMile.com, BCB Live, the safest station in America.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, guys. Y'all have a great day. Thanks a lot.